Tonight, Kamala Khan has been cast in the MCU, and so has Jamie Foxx. Plus, we have our props and slops tonight on Comic Book Canon! Welcome to Comic Book Canon. It is yet again Friday. We are here to talk comic books and the hobby that we all love. Speaking of love, my partner in crime is full of it. Chris, how are you?
Yeah, Fridays. Gotta love them, right? Man, it's been a crazy busy day for me already. Been doing work over on my channel. And yeah, speaking of love, we got some love to give. First, I want to give a big shout out to my number one love, A1 Comics. So guys, if you're ever in the Sacramento area, check out A1 Comics. I got 3 locations. Plus, you can find them on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter at A1 Comics or a-1comics.com. They do live sales. They do everything, so it doesn't matter where you live. A1 Comics. But Jeff, we got another big announcement that I'm excited about. I shared this on my channel yesterday. So you wanna do the honors here?
Yeah, one of our weekly regulars, one of our audience members, Kid Collector, aka Landon, he is starting his own YouTube channel. He is in the chat tonight as well. But go down to the description below, click on Kid Collector, and subscribe to him. But while you're at it, if you haven't subscribed to us, please do as well and like this video too. But check him out. The kid knows his stuff. For 14 years old, I couldn't tie my shoes back then. So just listen to him, follow him. I guarantee you it'll be an entertaining watch, especially the first comic book he talked about on his very first video. I'll leave it at that. Am I right? Am I right, Landon? Let's see what you say there. But speaking of, all right, so this week, it wasn't the high volume of news this week that we're normally expected the past few weeks, but it's pretty big news. Am I right, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Look, especially if you felt like me for the last couple of weeks, kind of disappointed with all these further pushbacks with the MCU. We got a lot of more positive MCU news that could, keep us holding on to hope.
So yeah, how about we just get right into it, Chris? Let's have you start it off.
Yeah. So the first news that just had me ecstatic was the fact that the MCU has found its Miss Marvel. Kamala Khan has been cast for Disney Plus's Miss Marvel show. So Marvel Studios has announced newcomer Iman Vellani as Kamala Khan. Disney and Marvel Studios went extremely young and with an extremely unknown with this one. And although Marvel has not commented on the casting yet, Marvel's been known to, take basic unknowns or folks that haven't had any spotlight and take the risk. I think the biggest one that comes to mind is Chris Hemsworth with Thor. There was a lot of backlash. Like, who is this guy? So here's another situation. You have a very young actress. Really good things to point out, though. She is a Pakistani Muslim, just like the character that she's playing. So you're staying true to the essence and the core of the character. Iman will be playing the role of Marvel's first on-screen Muslim character. So really groundbreaking stuff here. Her first major Hollywood role. So I'm excited and I trust the process. I do trust the casting with Marvel Studios and Disney for them to say, look, it doesn't matter if they don't have that resume. If we have that feeling that they will fit the role and that the role will fit them, then we're going to go with it.
Yeah, absolutely. This is exciting. We've all been waiting for this news. She's such a new, exciting, and fresh character. But her take, you really have to be specific in terms of the actress you're going to cast for her, because her take is very quirky, kind of just teenage girl, and it's super exciting, especially the fact that they found somebody with the same roots as Kamala in the comic books. That's super important. Representation does matter. And I think this is going to go a long way. But, I mean, she's going to be Miss Marvel for quite a while. I mean, I believe she's 14 years old. So she's going to be in this role, and she's going to be part of this new wave of characters that's going to kind of take over the Marvel Universe, because she will be in the films as well.
Yeah, this has so much growth potential, no pun intended, on her growth as being a 14-year-old. It's like I think we said this last week. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is an infant still. It really is. it's an infant still. And there's so much more to do. There's so much more to be explored. And, you know, you look at this character having, you know, 5, 6, 7 years into her role, whether it being on Disney Plus in a series or bringing her into the films. At that point, you can really see her take off and have 10 plus years from there, just depending on where the direction of the MCU is going. I mean, there's so many positive unknowns of the future of this universe because it really is still so fresh and new, and just the possibilities are endless.
Yep, absolutely. Again, it's going to open the door to a whole new, fresh cast of characters, which is you need to keep that going. It is in its infancy, but there is a template that they like to break out of the template. Marvel does, you know what I mean? They like to do things new and different. Like for example, Thor Ragnarok was completely out of left field. Beautiful, hilarious film that you never would have kind of attributed to a character like Thor. So, anyways, really excited to hear about this casting news. As most other people are, because she's a very popular character who's only been around for 6 years. So looking forward to seeing some more stuff from that production, because there will be more casting coming down the road. But speaking of casting, we had an interesting report from the Hollywood Reporter that Jamie Foxx has been cast as Electro in Spider-Man 3. As most of you will remember, he was Electro in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, which was really a forgettable movie. Other than how bad it really was, his character he was good in it. I have full confidence that he could portray an Electro on screen, but I don't think he got a fair shake at it because that movie was garbage. It was a hot mess, absolute garbage. I'm happy to see that they're bringing him back in. I know Feige gave his input a little bit on The Amazing Spider-Man 2, but this is very interesting, and it's been reported. It hasn't been verified. However, on Jamie Foxx's Instagram, he shared a story that on his IG page, he reposted a story from Keith Jefferson congratulating him on the role. So nothing really is confirmed here, but it's pretty interesting. Wouldn't you say, Chris?
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like this is as close as we can get to believing that this is official without an official statement. And I'm hearing you, man. I think out of all the Spider-Man films, Amazing Spider-Man 2 was the worst, hands down. I know Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 3 had its issues. This was the worst. And I agree with you. I mean, Jamie Foxx is a great actor. I think he's one of those actors that has had a lot of standout roles in his career. And look, the writing and the directing on this film took a character that had a certain personality, and Jamie Foxx took that personality and showed it on screen. But yeah, I think the writing failed him, and the creative team failed him. It's not that he can't do this. So I do believe it's very interesting to know what Marvel's thought process was with this. But I do believe that this rendition of Electro, even though played by Jamie Foxx, still will feel completely different.
Yeah, we can only hope. But also, let's all think about this, because this could be on the road. Marvel and Sony could be paving a road here that we are going to go down that I think is very exciting. Because if you think about it, the Sinister Six, first appearance of Sinister Six was in Amazing Spider-Man Annual 1. Now, right now, we have already half of these characters either appearing or talked about. So you had the Vulture, Michael Keaton. You have Mysterio, Jake Gyllenhaal. You have Electro, which is looking like it's going to be a thing. That's half of the Sinister Six right there. So that's pretty exciting if that's what they're working towards, because, you still need Sandman. You still need, Kraven, Kraven's probably the closest thing to coming on the big screen out of all of these people, other than the Electro news. And Doc Ock, which we've already seen in films. So Chris, that would be. I'm excited about a Sinister Six. That would just blow everybody's minds right there. Yeah.
Well, I mean, look, Sony's been trying to work with to get into a Sinister Six for practically a decade now. And that's what they wanted to do from moving on from Sam Raimi. So that's always been a goal, and I'm sure they're sitting there with Marvel Studios saying, look, we still want this to happen. But look, the Sinister Six isn't just that. The Sinister Six has had revolving members
Yes.
throughout the years. So we already have Scorpion in a cameo at the end of Homecoming, and we have the Shocker.
You had the Tinkerer. You had a whole bunch of,
Right.
it doesn't have to be the original 6, which again,
and,
Doc Ock.
And also, go ahead.
Just Doc Ock, Sandman, Craven, Vulture, Mysterio, Electro. So yeah, it doesn't have to be those, but we're already very close. We're probably close to 4 out of the 6 right there.
Absolutely, and you look at this as a different ways too. Also, if you look at the Ultimate Universe, which a lot of the MCU pulls in a lot from the Ultimate Universe, Green Goblin was part of the Sinister Six. But putting that aside, I think they can, and this is just me as a fan, kind of breaking these things down, working this go. But if you think about it, they can really look. We had a great Doc Ock with Sam Raimi, and even Sandman's portrayal. I forget the actor's name from Wings. That shows my age. Yeah. He did a great, regardless of the movie. I thought he was a great Sandman. You've had these characters, so and we know that these characters are more. These are what's the word? These are your top tier villains. You can really keep them out of a Sinister Six. You can even keep Craven out of a Sinister Six and still introduce him in a Spider-Man film, but still go with the Sinister Six that has these more smaller B-level role players like a Shocker or a Scorpion, because that way it doesn't convolute, and make it too much of a powerhouse where there's too much going on. So you have certain key players like the Vulture and Mysterio working with these other maybe 3 or 4 individuals that have these smaller roles, so it makes it kind of more cohesive, and it'll make a team of 6 villains work better instead of overwhelming us like we were with like Amazing Spider-Man 3, where you were trying to put all these big villains.
You got to do it. I mean, if anybody could do it, it's Marvel, because look what they've done with Avengers Endgame. They could do that with villains as well. So Kid Collector has a good point. I hope they give him the classic costume, but modernize it a bit. Absolutely. I would want them to get away from that look completely, because, I mean, how cool is this? Like, how cool is this? Electro is badass. That's all, I think we're all in agreement. We can all agree to that. So we can all hope, but we shall see. Again, hopefully that this does get confirmed in the coming weeks, months, and they get into production, because it's something we all want to see.
Indeed, I'm there.
Yeah. So moving on, though, we have some very interesting news out of Todd McFarlane world. Chris, let us know what that's all about.
Todd, man, I just I always talk about Todd McFarlane. I call him the the Jack Kirby of the modern generation, and I appreciate what he is doing this week. He came on his Instagram and his Twitter and announced that he will be doing a Chadwick Boseman memorial cover on Spawn issue 311 for the cover B artwork. He showed the artwork off on his Instagram, and just what an amazing take. You have Spawn with his mask off, standing with the head down, doing the Wakanda Forever salute with a Black Panther belt buckle. Now, this wasn't documented, but I don't know if the face is supposed to bring on the likeness of Chadwick, just in the Spawn suit. But regardless of that is supposed to be or not, I just see this as really like, look, this character of Spawn is saluting a fallen comrade and a fallen soldier, and it really means a lot to Black characters within comic books. McFarlane did release a statement saying, given the limited amount of minority characters in the comic industry today that are considered major superheroes, I thought it appropriate for one of these well-known heroes, Spawn, to pay tribute to a man who made a lasting impact on helping shape such a strong superhero of color. And you gotta understand, there would not be a Spawn without Black Panther. And McFarlane does do the cover Bs on every issue of the Spawn books. So, you know, I'm glad that he took it into consideration to say, this is how I'm going to, you know, pay my tribute.
Yeah, this must have been a mad scramble to produce because, I mean, this just happened weeks ago. We lost Chadwick. So for them to get this into production so quickly is kind of amazing. I don't know if you mentioned, but he also did a black and white version as well, which is just as kind of stunning and just it's just beautiful, a beautiful tribute. I think we were talking in the pre-show. My hope is that some of these proceeds go to, you know, some sort of cancer research or something like that. I haven't seen that anywhere. I think you've seen a few shops though.
Yes.
Offering.
Yeah, I saw some dealers that are offering or not offering, but that are taking a percentage of sales, proceeds of sales, and are donating to a cancer charity, which is amazing. I don't know how widespread that is because, like Jeff, when I saw the black and white, I'm like, okay, is this going to be an incentive like cover, and is it going to be higher? Like, I don't want it to be higher than cover price, unless there's profits going to charity, because yeah, I don't want to see this as a move where they're trying to just milk you know, a promotional opportunity to sell books. But look, I do believe the intention is pure of heart. You know, and Todd McFarlane, following him through his career, he is a genuine human being. And I see him as truly being indebted to just obviously Stan Lee in creating the Black Panther character in the first place, to allow Spawn to have that platform with his character, like the most successful independent character ever. But then, of course, what Chadwick did, embodying the role of Black Panther in films to even more solidify every other character of color that either exists today or that will exist in the future.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a beautiful gesture. It's a beautiful cover, and one of those that people are just going to collect. Like, and I really hope that it doesn't get muddied with ugly kind of spec things. That some speculation is not a bad thing by any means, but there are some ugly things that happen within the spec world. So let's just hope again that a beautiful gesture like this just doesn't kind of get soiled. So, anyways, look forward to that in the next few weeks. Spawn 311, those two covers. All right, moving on though, we have some interesting news that happened close to our show last week that we were like, should we put it in? We just didn't want to rush it in because we're super excited about it. We wanted to treat it right and be able to get all the imagery and all that stuff. So, very happy to say that Hawkman has been casted in the DCEU. He will be in the Black Adam film with The Rock. We are super excited about this casting. If you do not know who Aldis Hodge is, you absolutely need to. He is a fantastic actor and somebody that we feel, I'm speaking for Chris, I know because we talked about it earlier, but somebody that we feel will fit this Hawkman role to a T. His acting chops are on point. He was MC Ren in Straight Outta Compton. He was also in The Invisible Man, and he just crushed both of those roles. On top of that, he has the physique of what a Hawkman would be. He stands 6'1", and dude's just ripped. So seeing him in that kind of like that battle kind of armor, Hawkman, you see Hawkman in all the time. It's super exciting. I mean, just imagine him running around with that mace like that. I'm pumped, Chris. How about you?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a great rendition of the character. You know, speaking of his portrayal in MC Ren, man, I thought I was looking at MC Ren. I thought that movie did a great job portraying real life individuals. He was definitely great in that. Really interesting thing when you look at Hawkman. Look, you know, outside of anything animated, you know, you look at Smallville. And dude, was Hawkman in Smallville so corny? I love Smallville, one of my favorite shows of all time, probably. But boy, wasn't feeling it. You look at what they did with the character in Legends of Tomorrow within the Arrowverse on CW, and you know, it was okay. It was all right. But I really, really am hopeful for this to be that you know, driving nail that just solidifies this character and says, look, we can bring this character to live action and we can do it right. I think he's got a great supporting cast as of right now. I hope that the casting of the characters that we know are going to be in the film continue to be strong picks. And again, we keep sounding like broken records. We're getting these little niblets of what DC is doing that seem to. It's like that thing where you're like, well, it looks good on paper, but is it gonna work well once it gets put into motion? And we're just sitting there waiting. All these things, all these announcemements, we have to wait until it comes to the screens and we can actually finally see these films.
Yeah. We do have kid collectors asking how he's going to be involved in the Black Adam. They're going to be bringing the Justice Society of America. I said that way too fast. Justice Society of America. It's going to be Hawkman. We saw this. This is, by the way, these are movie renderings. This is concept art for the film Black Adam. You're also going to have Dr. Fate. I mean, look at how stunning that is right there. Beautiful and true to the comic, right? You're going to have Atom Smasher, and to round out this crew, you're going to have she's a bit of a newer character, but she's tied into the Red Tornado. She's Red Tornado's granddaughter. So again, super exciting to see what DCEU is doing here, and it's I don't know. I'm starting to get excited for DCEU. They have a very, very small margin of error because of their past, and I'm really hoping they're getting on track here with things like Black Adam and all of the other projects like Wonder Woman 1984. That looks excellent as well.
They can't fail us.
They can't.
They can't. So, boy, I tell you, we're still going to be here doing these shows. Hopefully, and when this all transpires, man, boy, I'll tell you, if I think we might have a show. If they fail us, we might have a show where we go live and we're both just going to be sitting here in silence for an hour. I mean, because it can't happen. So I'm with you. You got so much lined up, so much built up, and we got to keep hoping. We got to stay positive.
Yeah, absolutely, and we will stay positive because again, they're starting to turn the corner with a lot of Aquaman, Wonder Woman. Those productions really started turning the corner, getting us away from some of the Batman vs Supermans and the Joss Whedon Justice League. Hopefully, this upcoming Justice League will do some things well, as well as the Flashpoint film. But that is our news segment for the week. It wasn't a high volume of news that we have been getting, but it was solid quantity, or it was solid quality of news that we did get. All right, so moving on, we have a segment that we do once a month called Props or Slops. We bring in somebody from the community, and they give us props on something they're praising, something they're excited about within the comic book realm, or slops, something that they really are not happy with and they're dogging. Either way, if it's props or slops, they're giving us their opinion, and they're going to be strong about the way they word it. So this week, we're very happy to have on the show Thoro Comics. He has his Instagram in the lower third. You'll see during the package that we roll. He is also down below. This guy works more than any other YouTuber out there in terms of the comic book world. He is this, what does he call himself? The speculator Ramus or Nostradamus? Yeah, I mean the dude connects dots like nobody I've seen in this community that he does. He puts that work and he reads everything. And he tells you what's what. He gives you his information on books you need to be looking out for. Whether you're specking or collecting, he's all about helping you out. So please check out his channel down below. Thoro, keeping it real. So we're going to check out his props or slops. You're going to find it quite interesting. Here we go.
Yeah, you know who it is, man. It is your boy Thoro. Keep it Thoro Comics. Y'all know what time it is. Y'all know how I do stuff. And of course, I'm here, man. Shout out to my boys from Comic Book Canon. Really appreciate you guys for having me on here. And they brought me over here some props, slops. I'm going to have to get some props, man, because I've been doing nothing but slops all around on my own channel. So I got to be a little bit positive on this end. So I got to give a big, big shout out and mad props to James Tynion. James Tynion is killing it, man. Why am I giving him props, guys? Because my man is killing it on Batman. And if you guys don't know about James Tynion and what he's bringing to the table, he is bringing nothing but fresh blood, new characters, something that we all need in this industry right now. This is something that is going to continue to push of people loving comic books. I enjoy what I'm seeing and the work that he's doing. He's actually even bought out one of the most awesome characters I could have possibly ever seen come out since Harley Quinn, and I am talking about my homegirl Punchline. I have more respect for her. I have grown to like her over time. She has been awesome. You also have so many other characters, guys. You got a brand new character coming out, Ghostmaker, something that you guys know I'm the speculation king, aka Thorodamus, man. I tell everybody, get your pens, your papers, your crayons, whatever it is. And you know how I do, man. And I cannot even speculate nothing off of it because James Tynion is truly building down from the ground. He's got another character that's super interesting as well by the name of Clown Hunter. I am looking 100% forward to that character. There's still not enough there yet, but we're going to get there. But why am I giving lots of props to James Tynion? Is because we need this, guys. We need to bring something fresh to the table. We can't continue to have these old characters. Can we still bring them back? Of course. Can we create newer things, newer stories with them? Yes, all the time. But we need new, fresh blood. Why? Because we need to bring new people, new interests into the comic book hobby. Without new people coming in here, and I'm talking about we all have these little kids who are growing up, they're watching all these movies. The interest is being driven through that. Look at my man, Miles Morales back here. Look how quick and how freaking just astronomically big he just got off of just a movie. And these kids are going nuts over Miles Morales. And this is a brand new character. So the same goes for James Tynion. He is freaking just straight up killing it with all these brand new characters. And man, to all the purists out there, I get you guys. I get you. You want to have these old characters. You want to keep it back into the Silver Age and keep on going with that. I understand, but man, give it a chance. It's like my man J. Cole said, you look at all these mumble rappers. He didn't give them a chance because he was a purist. He came from an era where rapping was literally top notch. That's all that came from that era at the time. Now we're in a brand new era, and you got to let these guys create and bring new music. That is the same thing that I can relate to comic books and the comic book industry because we need that. We need that fresh blood to keep on moving, to just gain the interest of a lot of these new collectors for a lot of different reasons, guys, because without them, we will pretty much look at comic books pretty much just going and falling apart. And we will not see comic books will be non-existent if we don't bring nothing new to the table. So shout out and props again to James Tynion for doing what you do. And besides that, make sure you check out all his other titles. Something is Killing the Children. He is killing it on that. So make sure y'all go and check it out. Again, man, y'all know what it is. Y'all know what time it is. Keep It Thoro Comics gives a freaking Keep It Thoro stamp of approval to my boys from Comic Book Canon. Shout out to y'all, man. As always, stay healthy, stay safe. Remember, man, be savage, not average, because that's how you want to be in life, yo. Later. Peace.
Really appreciate Thoro coming on and giving his props to James Tynion.
Thorodamus. Yeah, that's what it is.
I mean, y'all need to follow Thoro. I'm telling you, if especially you want to be on that spec game, he will lead you to the promised land. Now, there's two things going on here, Chris. I'm going to have a few words because I know Chris has a lot to say about this. There's two things, in my opinion, that are going on. James Tynion is killing it with Batman. I have to admit, I didn't start reading his run until issue 95, the start of the Joker War. Fantastic. It's been a solid run. It's hard to bring something new and fresh into a legacy character like a Batman. And with that, you take a risk, it could fall flat on its face. But there's a high reward if you do bring that. And I think Tynion is bringing that kind of freshness, just like Scott Snyder did with like the Court of Owls, where this group was always part of Gotham's history, and he seamlessly put that into the Batman's legacy. So we're seeing that right now with Tynion. I'm really enjoying the tender moments that he has with Alfred in his head, because sorry if it's a spoiler, but it happened months ago. Alfred is dead, and he's having these conversations with Alfred. Jeff. Batman is. And the Punchline and Harley fight, it's just fantastic. So I think he's killing it. But the second thing, because that's just James Tynion, but the second thing is you got to keep these comic books fresh, guys. You can't be rehashing the same old story over and over. It's not going to bring new people in, and the old people are going to be like, I'm tired of this. So that's my piece. I know Chris has some things to say as well. Chris, take it away.
Man. Queensbridge. Yo, man, I get on this so on this level with Thoro so well, man. First off, to bring in hip hop as an analogy, I'll talk about that a little bit here. But look, everything he's talking about is something that's been in existence from generation to generation. We go back to, and using music as an example, we go back to rock and roll. Look at what rock and roll was, right, in the 40s and 50s. You know, devil or the blues down south. You know, it was devil's music, right? Then rock and roll was devil's music. Then, you know, we got hip hop in the 80s and 90s, and that's, you know, garbage, trash. You know, punk music was rebel music. Every new generation, you get something new, and the old generation is like, whoa, that's not what I'm used to. I don't like that. Ooh, what is that? Right? But it's because we fear that in which we do not know. We fear that in which we are not used to. So when we talk about comics, we are at such a pivotal point because we are at a generational gap right now where I think, Jeff, probably you and I, we came up at an age where we were experiencing the hobby in a very similar way that the Silver Age, you know, you look at that generation, the baby boomers, how the baby boomers were collecting in the 60s and 70s, and that we came in the 80s and 90s, and there was a lot of similarities. We kind of rolled over into this era right now, and we're kind of boxed out from this new generation that's coming up. And before I get to my point on that, let me bring up some examples here that Thoro talked about. He talked about new characters for people to continue reading comics, like Punchline, something fresh. We talk about fresh. New interest for new people, these younger generations. Let me tell you something that I've always talked about. It has always been extremely hard. Look, you got what you got with the Golden Age, right? You know, you got your Supermans, your Batmans, and your Wonder Womans, and your Flash. You got your Namors and your Captain America, but obviously the Marvel Age was the Silver Age. Then you go to the Silver Age, and you get your Spider-Man, your Fantastic Four, your X-Men, your Avengers, and with DC, your Justice Leagues, carrying on, right? It's really hard to break through being a new character outside of the Golden and Silver Ages. You had some in the Bronze Age, specifically more minority characters like Black Panther or Falcon and so forth, the new Green Lantern with Jon Stewart. You know, there's a lot of characters from the 80s and up where it's really it's an outlier to see a new fresh character be successful. And you could say from 1980s until recent years, those outliers are Deadpool, Venom, Lobo, right? Those are kind of like the three that really stand out. You know, I mean, you have Cable, you have other ones that have semi-success, but let's talk about all the other countless superheroes like Sleepwalker and Darkhawk and Night Thrasher and all these characters that just did not go anywhere. So what has the industry done for the last couple of decades? They try to recreate. And you saw when Dan Slott, for example, came onto the Amazing Spider-Man and completely ruined it, in my opinion. But now I'm kind of straying too far. Let's get back on track to what Thoro was saying. Rock and roll. We need something fresh, and these people that came up in this era just aren't understanding it right now, because let me tell you what's happening. Something has been happening the last few years that has not happened since probably pre-1980s, really, outside of Deadpool, Venom, and maybe Lobo, like I said. You have characters coming in like Miles Morales, Kamala Khan, a new Nova, even Punchline, and these characters with DC, like you said, a Court of Owls, and these storylines that are fresh with fresh characters. And we're finally bringing in creators and writers that know how to handle these fresh characters that speak to this new generation. And this, I agree 100% with Thoro. This will carry on comic books and the comic book hobby for decades to come. And my final point to this is they're doing it while still bringing in your classic characters like Batman and Spider-Man. You look at Peter Parker being a role model to Miles Morales. You look at Batman being that main protagonist in this world where all these new characters are being created, you know, and the new mythos are being created. So it's not like we're throwing out what came before in the garbage. No, we are paying homage and understanding a tradition of what came before, and we're carrying that in, but yet we are evolving it. So, Jeff, I don't know if you want to interrupt, but I want to give one example to his music point. But did you want to jump in before I do that real quick?
No, I agree with everything you said. We agree too much. You know, it'd be more entertaining if you and I argued a lot, but I agree with everything you said there, 100%.
All right, so I want to now, you know, just to reiterate everything I was saying. Basically, we're at this pivotal point where the freshness, right? It's the freshness is really cooking. The formula is working. So when you look at what he was talking about, mumble rappers. Now, for those that might not listen to rap music or hip hop, you got to understand there's been kind of a devolution in rap music, right? Where a lot of it, you know, you don't even know what they're saying. They're not making sense. Like it's watered down. You know, we think that everything is watered down these days, and there's a lot of that out there. But what we need to do as old heads, right, is recognize that something's evolving. Okay. So instead of pointing a finger at it and saying that's garbage, that's not hip hop, or saying that's garbage, that's not comic books, you say, okay, I see you're doing something new. It doesn't look like the comics that I made, or does it sound like the hip hop that I made or listened to or used to, or the comics that I read? But I get it. It's different. Okay, what are we doing here? And then you look at it and you see where can you add similarities that make the roots of an art form work. So if you're an old head within hip hop and you say hip hop has to sound like this and has to look like this, all you're doing is stagnating. Hip hop is a culture. Hip hop doesn't need to look a certain way. It doesn't need to sound a certain way, but it has to have an essence within the music. And if we old heads would just sit back and open our ears, we would understand that a lot of these young kids have that cultural essence within them. And let's be open-minded so we guide them. I talk about it like this. The older generations are the parents. So if the younger generation is producing crap, if they're producing dog crap, who's to blame? Us, because we're not leading them. We're not leading them. So let's lead them in a way to where we can oversee a new creative platform that stays true to where we've been before, but that evolves in us so that we don't stagnate and we can keep moving forward with the freshness.
Absolutely. And there's been a lot of side conversation going on with something else that I think you and Chris and I will talk about during the Q&A section, but I do want to bring something up here where Mike Sears, you know, you want to do something fresh, be creative, make new original characters, leave the originals alone. Now that's happening now in Batman with James Tynion.
Right.
That's just one title. Mike, highly suggest you check that title out, man. It's new villains coming in to your favorite character. So that's something you should think about. Anyways, again, we'll address the side conversation going on about a previous topic later on. But yes, thank you, Thoro, so much for joining us. Absolute pleasure. Everybody, I'll say it one more time. If you're into the spec game or just want to be on top of the hottest collectibles that are coming around the corner, Thoro is your guy. Keep it Thoro Comics at IG, and also his link to YouTube is down below. Please click subscribe to both. You will not regret it. That's the last I'll say about that. All right, so moving on. We have our top 10 hottest comic books coming up, but I do want to tease another segment coming up. It's one we do every week. It is the Cosmic Minute. Tom Tormey's going to come in and talk about a juicy nugget of comic book history that you enjoy. I promise that. Stick around for that. It's going to be very good because it is very relatable to kind of the what's been going on in the world these days. Anyways, so moving on though, we are going to move on to Chris. We're going to move on to the top 10 hottest comic books of the week based off of Cover Price's data. We take every week, we take their top 10 hottest comics that comes out on Monday. We're a show on Friday. We want to talk about that. And then Chris right there, he checks out this list and then he picks his 3 favorite books from this list and just gives you some info on what his thoughts are on it. Because Chris has been in this game for a while, as have I, but Chris is definitely, he knows his stuff, and you'll hear about that first. But first, I'm going to read off the top 10 hottest comic books of the week based off of Cover Price's data. At number 10, we have The Amazing Spider-Man Annual 16, the first appearance of Monica Rambeau. Lots of stuff going on in the MCU with her, and we'll get into that in a second. Number 9 is Amazing Spider-Man number 361, the first appearance of Carnage. Number 8 is Aruna, the Heart of the Spider, Spider-Girl. Number 7 is Autumnal, number 1. Number 6 is Stillwater, number 1. Number 5 is Amazing Spider-Man 365, the first Spider-Man 2099. Number 4 is Amazing Fantasy number 1. Number 3 is X-Men number 12. Number 2 is Cyberpunk 2077, Trauma Team number 1. And number 1 is a character we talked about at the top of the show, Miss Marvel, number 13, the first appearance of Cameron. And by the way, I think I need to correct myself. Arana, the Heart of the Spider, is not the first appearance of Spider-Girl. That would be Amazing Fantasy. Number 1, Chris. Chris. Let's have
a lot of Marvel today, and some independents too. Always big shout out to independents. Number 10 on this list is going to be my number 3 pick today, and I know me and you, Jeff, have our copies, right? Yes. What do you got? Newsstand? Yep. Newsstand.
You have newsstand?
Yep, newsstand. Now I bought mine about 4 years ago for $7. I believe it was $7. And I've never pressed it. It's in anywhere from a 9.0 to probably a 9.4 on a good day. It's got a couple of spine ticks, maybe 3 spine ticks, a little bit of ruffle right here that might be able to get pressed out. But definitely a high grade, near mint minus, near mint. Happy to get that for cheap. Because, guys, guess what? This book is like, what? So I know mine's not a 9.8. I know it's not going to get that high even with the print. But guess what, guys? The first appearance of Monica Rambeau is the new Captain Marvel. Last week, $409 for a CGC 9.8. What? Right? It's crazy, guys. Look. This character has a very interesting history. You know, the legalities of the name Captain Marvel, and Marvel having to fight at that time with needing to keep hold of the IP and trying to throw it on some character is what really gave Monica Rambeau the Captain Marvel title, even though like her powers had nothing to do with Captain Marvel. And she later took on a couple of different names and whatnot that maybe really even more fitting to her. But I think this is a character that, you know, had some solid history that gets overlooked. I mean, she led the Avengers for a good period of time, and I believe she's a character that they could do justice to in the MCU. So, I mean, look, I'm not mad that this book is selling for $409 in a CGC 9.8. You know, you talk about things that can be overlooked for a long time, and then there's other variables that come into play that make people go after books. So I'm hopeful for this book to keep a solid threshold. I believe this hype will kind of dip a little bit. So if you were looking to buy, again, this is one of those books where I say don't go out and try to get a 9.8 right now. Go out and try to look for a raw book in a higher grade that maybe you can clean, press, send off to get pressed, and maybe shoot for a 9.6 or 9.8. You know, you can still find this book for a decent, affordable cost, a raw copy. And I always say this, like, you know, don't just look to eBay, look to marketplaces, but more importantly, go to your LCS stores, look in the back issue bins, and look. You might not never know what you may find. They might have the book sitting in there with the price tag that's still like $10 or under on it, and hey, score, right? So really good book to keep an eye out on, and if you have it, hold on to it, guys. Even though it's at a peak right now, I mean, if it's a 9.8 slab and you want to make a quick buck, maybe whatever. But if you're not really into the flipping thing, hey, hold on to it, because even though I think this is going to dip some and then have some ebb and flow, I think if this character is continuing to do right, this is going to be a book that readers are going to go back to and really start to understand and enjoy this character a lot more. So That's my take on Monica Rambeau.
I'm excited for her. As we saw a little snippet of her in the WandaVision trailer. I do believe we talked about that last week. So she could be getting her powers in that show. Big things for her, though. Big things for her. What do we got next, Chris?
All right, indies, man. And I always say it like, how do we keep calling Image an indie? But look, you know, they are the indie game. They made the indie game, so still call it how it is. Image, man. Stillwater #1. So you have this influx of independent titles that are just continuing to get hot with their #1 issues because we are looking at success of film franchises. You know, obviously, when you think of Image, you think of The Walking Dead and the success that's had. And I think every title that comes out, you think, okay, this is going to get pushed into a TV show. We're going to have that Walking Dead success. There's been others that, you know, haven't had that much success. But look, these books are still hot. And, you know, although I am behind on my indie reading, they've really revolutionized the game in storytelling. And whether you're not you're buying these because you want to speculate on, or you're just buying them to collect or read the story, cliche saying, you can't go wrong, right? You know, as long as you're not spending an abundant amount of money that makes you uncomfortable. Okay. So this book right here, keep an eye out for it. This is one of those situations where if a TV show or cinematic release of something like this happens and it bombs, it could ultimately really hurt the monetary value of this book, where people might start trying to sell off their books and something. But who knows? That could be years down the line. Again, you could easily get these books on pre-orders or put them in your pull list at stores if you want to be somebody that speculates on these new indie titles, or saying, hey, I want to look out for new indie titles just because I want something fresh to read.
The only thing I know about this book is that I don't know anything about the book other than the fact that I saw that book in my comic book shop, my LCS, and I was like, I want to pick it up. Should I pick it up? I'm not going to pick it up.
You know,
and I didn't pick it up. So
it's a horror genre. It's a horror genre, and I think the horror genre has been doing really well for indies. I know there was who was it? Aftershock that had a horror title in the top 10 this week as well. Boom had a horror title. And, you know, you look at what Marvel's doing with their cinematic universe, starting to bring in a horror genre. Again, it's just, you see so many of so much emotion here, where this revolving door continues to happen to just expand the success of comic book industry. And it's a beautiful thing.
Well, since it's horror genre, I'm not into horror genre, and I'm glad I didn't pick up the book. However, this next book, I do wish I had in my collection, and I don't. Chris, what do we got?
Well, my #1 has to be the #1 on the list, and that's Miss Marvel, #13. This is the first appearance of a character named Kamran. Now, heavily speculated right now that this character will be showing up in the Disney Plus show. So what happens? The book sales skyrocket. Now, I'm all about the success for Miss Marvel. We talked about how excited we are about the show coming, but I didn't pick this book necessarily to celebrate Miss Marvel. I picked this book because I really want to dive into the controversial issue of what makes a book like this hit #1 on a top 10 list, right? This book had an increase of sales of almost 800%. Hold on. Nope, don't leave the live stream and go rush to eBay and start paying $100 for this book. Let me finish. This book increased 800% in sales merely because one book was sold the week before. One copy. So what does that say? This book was just a book. It was nothing until, here comes the speculators, right? Now, am I saying that that's a bad thing? No, I just want to put it how it is, right? Speculators came in this week with the announcement of the show, with speculating on that this character that shows up in this book is going to show up in this TV show. So what happens? 13 people bought the book this week. That's it. 13. This isn't selling hundreds of copies off the shelf or anything like that. 13, guys, because only one book sold the week before. But we have to put our numbers in context. It's almost 800%. So what does that mean that 13 books sold this week? Well, is it organic? And you ask, well, what does organic mean? Well, did collectors that actually enjoy the character or read the story, did 13 of them go out and buy the book? Or did speculators go out and buy the book hoping to flip them and make that quick buck? The truth is, I don't know. Do you? Probably not. A feasible hypothesis can be, I would probably assume at least 50% of those books, which is only 6 or 7 copies, probably was bought by speculators who are still buying them for $34 books before the price starts going up, saying, hey, we're going to spec on these, right? So the question you ask is, if we take these variables into consideration, is that market manipulation? Is that not organic? Hey, Jeff, what do you think?
I call organic because honestly,
yes.
Look at those numbers. Like 13 books. Like, come on. Like,
books.
But it is 800% because there is interest in this book.
Right.
There's interest in seeing where these characters, potential characters that you're going to see on screen,
right.
where they're going to come from. That's what I mean. As a comic book collector, I love that stuff, you know, and I hope you all can say that too. Now, granted, I do speculate from time to time to be able to get bigger books that I want in my collection. That's part of the game to me. But I'm also interested in the history of these characters, you know. So again, I think this is fantastic that it's pretty much organic and it's number one.
Right. So to your point, so like, yeah, let's look at this. 13 books. So does that mean that, you know, you're subscribed to Cover Price? Maybe you watch Comic Tom, and I don't know if Comic Tom talked about this book. I'm just saying this is hypothetical, right? You know, say you watch Comic Tom and he said, "Oh man, the hottest selling book this week was Miss Marvel 13." Or say you go to some blog or you know, whatever the case may be, wherever you're getting your information from, and you see 800% increase in sales, it's number one. And you go out and spend money. Say you see it on eBay and somebody's selling it on eBay for $25, and you spend that money. Does that mean that price is manipulated and is non-organic? Absolutely not. Nobody told you to go spend that money. Nobody told you that you had to go rush out and FOMO this book. So think about it. Now, does it matter if those 13 books were sold to speculators trying to flip, or 13 collectors that just want interest in the comic book because they like the character and they want to read the comic itself? It doesn't matter, because the bottom line is we are in control of our decisions, and we have to take the information into proper context, guys. Seriously. So let me, before I wrap this up, let me tell you guys, if we weren't all FOMO'd out, right, and we saw 800% increase, and nobody that wanted the book outside of saying, oh, I'm going to buy the book and try to flip it, if nobody bought it, you know what would happen to those 13 people that bought the book for $3, $4, $5, whatever the case may be, before they thought it would go up? They'd be sitting with the book that they can maybe sell for $3, $4, $5. So is it the speculator's fault that the value is increasing, or is it yours? Think about it. It's all organic, guys. That's all I'm saying. Nobody's manipulating the market. Nobody. It's the natural workings of the spindles on the clock, so to say. One thing affects the other, and it's just this domino effect, this infinity effect of just what keeps any type of market flowing. So it's up to you guys. Make sound decisions, make sound purchasing choices, and do your homework. Don't take things at face value and not understand the context of them. And only then will you be more sound in your decision making to understand why the market is the way it is organically.
Well said. Well said. Because honestly, however much you feel like you can and want to pay for something, you will, right? If you want it that badly. And you'll dictate the price for that for you. So anyways, enough with the complaints. That was all. That was, you know, number one, all organic. Love seeing that in the top 10 right there as the number one book. That is our top 10 hottest comic books of the week based off of Cover Price's data. We will have a new list next week, and super excited to talk about that as well. But we will be moving on because we are super excited about this next segment as well. Tom Tormey, Cosmic Comic History at Cosmic Comic History on Instagram. The link is down below. He's with us every week, dishing out comic book history goodness. This one it's a good one. All right, for all y'all that think that comic book today are too woke, the social justice warriors are all over the place. Did you know that back in the 40s, Superman went after the KKK? It's true, and we're going to check that out right now. And when we check it out, we'll come back and we'll talk about it. Enjoy.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tom Tormey from Cosmic Comic History, and this is your Cosmic Minute. Whenever a comic book character tackles a real-world issue, there are those that will moan and groan as they lament the days when comics were just good old-fashioned fun. But did you know that superheroes have addressed politics and culture since their inception? In his very first appearance in June of 1938, Superman was a fictional embodiment of FDR's New Deal policies. Throughout the 1940s, Superman bled red, white, and blue as he pushed war bonds and brought the fight to the Axis powers. And, as we'll talk about today, in post-World War II America, Superman was able to put a spotlight on an invisible empire. In 1940s, journalist Stetson Kennedy's back injuries kept him going overseas to fight Nazism. Instead, he chose to expose racism at home. Kennedy infiltrated the KKK and gathered up as much information as he could. He wanted that information to get out to as many people as possible. He contacted the producers of the Adventures of Superman radio show. The expose was turned into a 16-episode series entitled The Clan of the Fiery Cross, and it revealed the inner workings of the Klan, even revealing secret codes and phrases. Within weeks, the Klan's membership drive ground to a halt. Even longtime members, now being mocked by their children at home, left the Klan. The Klan became a joke, all thanks to Stetson Kennedy and Superman. I'm still Tom Tormey from Cosmic Comic History, and that was your Cosmic Minute. Until next week, be well and stay safe.
I love it. I love it. I think I would like to think everybody watching this right now can all say that the KKK is bad. We don't like the KKK, right? I personally will put myself out there and say that. For a story like this back in the 40s, I think that did a lot of good. And I think this is amazing to hear about because you had comic books involved in political issues, societal issues from the beginning. Am I right, Chris?
Like it was, look, the superhero that was created was an embodiment of battling oppression, battling marginalization. Superman was the embodiment to say, we will not be marginalized. We will not be victimized and oppressed. So, it is really ironic that we live in a culture right now that tries to sensationalize some form of political political sensationalism. How else to say it? That's going on right now as if it was never there before. This has been there from the beginning, 80 plus years now. So it's a fact of the matter. I'm not here to tell anyone to like it or dislike it or enjoy it or not. But when we sit and say that, well, politics were never in comics before, when I was growing up reading them, all that stuff, like Tom said, they were just for fun and there wasn't politics shoved down my throat. There absolutely were politics shoved down your throat every time you opened up a comic book. You opened up a Superman comic book, politics are being shoved down your throat. You open up an X-Men comic book, politics are being shoved down your throat. And this happened through the 30s and 40s and 60s and 70s as well. And it's been there from the beginning. But my only thing that really, I feel, changes the environment of where we're at today is we have a technology called social media. And social media provides a platform of instantaneous information, and it provides individuals that would never have a platform before to have a very valid platform to speak their voice, and not only to speak it, but to be loud. And I honestly think if we had internet, social media like we did, whether it be the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, or 70s, or 80s, I do believe we would hear the same rhetoric back then as we do today. We just didn't hear it because it wasn't accessible, it wasn't normalized, and you know, it didn't show its face. So I believe that element of it, you know, was there. It was just hidden. We've kind of opened up the door for individuals to say, hey, look. But like, again, to Tom's point, the bottom line is it's always been there. Superheroes in general are the embodiment of social and political debate.
They've always been intertwined with that, and I think Tom would agree with that. He's in the chat right now. If y'all have any questions about any sort of comic book history, but it's always been intertwined. We're not saying every issue has a political, you know, ideal attached to it, or a political belief, or some sort of propaganda or anything like that. That's definitely not the case. But they deal with real world issues,
right?
And and the writers are allowed at times to have a platform to be able to write about what they believe in is right or wrong. And you have the choice to buy that or not. You have the choice to believe that or not.
Yep.
And that's very important. That's very important. And again,
go ahead.
Today, what we see today in terms of the writing, in terms of the storylines that touch upon things like inclusion, or things like racism, or things, you know, or domestic assault, any kind of issue you hear about, you know, it's the same thing that were touched upon today that they touched upon years ago.
Well, let me say too, and this is another misconception. We politicize everything, meaning we coin everything that's related to social and cultural and economic conditions to politics. It's not true. When we talk about race, we're not talking about politics, unless you're talking about influencing policy making that can essentially affect race relations or something like that. But when we're talking about, I demand to be treated equally for the color of my skin, that's not political. There's nothing. Look, we can look at the simple textbook definition of politics, and it's influencing decision making on a governmental level. That's what it is. Talking about equality is not a political issue. It is a human issue. It is a social issue. So, you know, there's a line that needs to be drawn in a distinguished separation between stating politics and social issues. For example, if you have a character that comes into a comic and they come out as gay, that's not a political agenda. It's not even a political issue. It's a human issue. It has nothing to do with politics, unless the storyline starts talking about gay marriage rights and how to impact the rights for gays to have equal marriage status. Then that's a political issue, because the politics of it is based in the policy making that would allow these laws to pass. So again, there needs to be a clear a distinction between addressing social and cultural issues and addressing things that have direct political issues as well.
Absolutely. This was such a great Cosmic Minute, and we really appreciate Tom, all that he does, and he's part of the show, because there are some nuggets of history that are like, oh, entertaining and fun, but this is important stuff. And Tom, we really appreciate you bringing this to us. And I mean, I didn't know that. I didn't know that the radio show touched upon it. I didn't know of Stetson Kennedy, and I'm glad you brought this to our attention and produced this segment for us. Tom joins us every week. He'll be back next week with the Cosmic Minute, touching upon comic book related history, and we are super excited to see what that subject will be. So stick around, watch us next week. You'll see Tom again. All right, moving on. It's time for Q&A, and I think, Chris, we've gotten one of the best questions we've ever gotten here. It comes from Kid Collector. Jeff, random question: are you standing or sitting? I am standing. I prefer to stand. I prefer to stand, and I get. You know, I'm able to I don't know the word I'm looking
Project.
for. Project. I'm able to project better than when I sit. I like to move around, and that's a Kid Collector. I'm standing. Thank you for asking that. All right. Do we have any other questions?
Can I add real quick? I would be. Funny. Here we go. Like agreeing and having these similarities. I'm right there with Jeff. You know, the reason why I don't stand though is because I just don't have a setup that allows me to stand. Because if I was standing, you'd be seeing my children's mess in their side of the room here. So we don't want any of that. So until that changes, I'm going to be sitting.
Once we're out of COVID, we're going to build the Comic Book Canon studio, and then we're going to have our own. It's going to be like ESPN. It's going to be like SportsCenter. You guys can't wait. Absolutely can't wait. I did want to touch upon the Aldis Hodge, though. There's been a lot of chatter in the comments about that and about the color of his skin. Guys, okay, I'm going to give my opinion right now. And you have good actors, you have bad actors. You have the good actors are able to bring in the essence of the character. Aldis Hodge, I truly believe, can bring in the essence of Carter Hall, can bring the essence of Hawkman. I absolutely believe that 100%. I'm going to look at him as Hawkman. He will be the DCEU Hawkman. It's not confirmed if he's going to be playing the traditional Hawkman, but I have a feeling he will be. That's my opinion. Chris, I don't know if you have anything to say on that.
You know, I have a lot to say on that. My thing is this. You know, we talked about this, Jeff. You know, we understand this has been a week of a lot of controversial topics with Miss Marvel casting, with you know, the Hawkman casting, with the Tinkerbell casting, and me and Jeff talked about, like, do we even want to address this? And we basically said that we really don't. You know, it's something that we want to look. It continue to enjoy doing what we do, talking about comic book movies and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, you know, and this isn't, look, we understand that people are going to have different perspectives. But what I would like to say is, again, this ironically, this goes back to what Thoro was saying, but just kind of on a deeper level. We have to get out of our own boxes. Why do we fear that in which we don't know, or that in which feels different, looks different, tastes different, smells different, sounds different, whatever it is? Why? Ask yourself, is somebody taking a knife and pushing it into your throat to where you feel threatened, that you are either in some kind of physical pain or your life is threatened or something is serious going on here? No, nothing serious is going on for us to look at these situations and be like, how dare you? We have to understand things in proper context. No matter how much it hurts us, no matter how much it makes us challenge what we've known or what we believe to have known our whole lives. Because guess what? And I believe this 200%. In the end, when we hold those things in, it's only going to hurt you and you're only hurting yourself. And I may be talking cryptic right now, but I think we might understand what I'm saying. And maybe on the rewind, you might want to watch this back and really listen to what I'm trying to say again. Okay? I have to say it. And maybe if Tom didn't do his segment this week, Jeff, I wouldn't say it, but I got to say it. Ugly is ugly. And God don't like ugly if you believe in God. But ugly has been around forever. And boy, do I not see it going away anytime soon. But sometimes ugly perpetuates what creates reality. And comic books were created in a reality that was very ugly. It was controlled by certain folks that created a world and a reality that was extremely ugly for a lot of other people that looked different, sounded different, prayed different, and so forth. The only reason we sit here today and our iconic characters look and sound the way they do is because other people that looked and sounded different were getting lynched and hosed in the streets, burnt in concentration camps, sent into concentration camps on our own soil, being seen as enemies of the state. And we did not accept anyone that looked different, acted different, sounded different, prayed different to be represented in any form or fashion. So to sit here and say, oh my gosh, this character that I grew up reading, this fictional character that doesn't even exist in real life, to sit and say, oh no, now this character looks different than I grew up on, how dare you? Does that hurt you? Is somebody taking a knife and puncturing your throat? Or does it speak to how privileged you have been to have characters that you can look at and look in the mirror and say, that's me? And not just one, and not just two, and not just three, but it was all of them until 1966. And then even today, it's the majority of them. So I'm going to end on this by saying, if you're mad that Hawkman, who is African, or if it rubs you the wrong way because you think the only thing that matters with a good fictional character portrayal is the pigmentation of their skin, the phenotype of their skin, if you're mad at that and that hurts you so much, then I want to hear you screaming and shouting with veins popping out of your neck that Egyptians, for the last 70 years of cinema, has been portrayed by white people. The end.
I mean, like, I can go on about this too, because I'm seeing some ignorant stuff going on in the comment section that I'm not happy about either. It's absolutely ridiculous. Asking, why can't the Black Panther be white then, if that's the case? Or why, or Cyborg? It's like, that's absolutely ignorant. And it comes from, and it's just like, Tom Tormey, you said it, man. I mean, I'm not going to bring it up because it's going to bring name and name, but Black Panther's the king of an African country. It's the essence of his character. He is black, right? His race isn't a defining character. And again, Hawkman is not defined by his race. He's not defined. So it's just ignorant to say these types of things. And I'm sorry, I'm calling it out. I'm not going to name the name because these live comments go away at the end of the show. But that will stick with me for other shows that I see down the road.
I want to say too, Jeff, now I have a video on my channel called Race Changing in Modern Cinema. If anyone wants to check that out, I encourage you to. It's only 8 minutes long. It goes in depth on the history of how cinema and even comic books came to be what they were, why we are where we are today. And I don't want to go talk about reiterate the whole video right now, but I will say I want to give one example why we're here, and that's Merida with Brave. Okay, when we talk about why does race changing matter or why shouldn't it matter? It matters, like you said, Jeff, when race, which is really ethnicity, it's really about ethnicity, but sometimes ethnicity is pivotal and connected and correlated to the color of their skin ultimately. So if you take a character like Merida from Disney's Brave, okay, she is a Scottish, white, red-headed girl that grew up in Scotland. If somebody made a live-action film and made Merida black, it would be ridiculous. Or Asian or Hispanic or Latino or whatever. If you make Merida anything but a Scottish person, and what are Scottish people? They have Caucasian white skin, right? That wouldn't make any sense, and it would be silly. I am against that. But it's to the context of the character, right? You can't make Mulan black because she's an Asian warrior that's actually based on loosely based on a non-fictional character. And you can't make T'Challa Asian or white because he is a African king of an African nation who has not had outside contact with the colonizers that came to Africa and so forth. Race only matters when it pertains to the context and the core of the character, regardless of what that race is. I'll leave it at that. If you guys want to watch my video, Race Changing in Modern Cinema, it is on my Journos Comics channel. Watch that. We can continue the debate there. You can leave some comments. But I think I don't want to speak for you, Jeff, but I think we spent enough time talking about this. I don't want to weigh this down. This is supposed to be, this is an environment where we speak on the very important and positive elements of this hobby in this community and how we bring people together. And I don't want to stray from that tonight, because I felt like we've had a great week. We've had a great show. And ultimately, overall, we've had a great audience. And I don't want to beat a dead horse here.
I got more to say, and I just don't even know if I should say it. Like, I've been holding in as well. And like, I don't know what's certain. I don't know who. All we see right here, if you don't have a profile picture, we don't know where you come from, who you are, what your background is, right? We say this time and time again. Chris and I are big believers of representation matters on the big screen. You cannot say that you're not being ignorant if you don't feel the pain of other people that have gone through something like racism or something. And again, I'm talking as a white man. I haven't experienced this, but you cannot devalue that pain that people bring up. You cannot devalue the excitement and enthusiasm that they get when they see somebody like them on the big screen, on the TV, whatever. It's important. That's another reason this is important. So it's not in these comments, like he's continuing on. So it's important. Representation matters. It's important to keep pushing for what's right and helping people get through the pains that they experience that not everybody else does.
Absolutely. My wife is black. My kids are mixed. My kids are brown. My son and I were actually working in the community 2 weeks ago and got profiled and got in a really scary situation with the police. And I'm not even going to go into that. So not only does representation matter, but the broader conversation here matters as well. And I'm just going to say it like this. For those that have to live with such hatred in their hearts, I feel sorry for. It's one thing to be ignorant when you use that term ignorant as just being not knowing, and you at least have an open mind to listen and learn. But it's another thing to be willfully ignorant, because boy, I'll tell you, it must be hard to look in the mirror and go to bed at night and live with this hatred, because when you die, our skin color goes away and we rot to bone, to the same white, pale bone, and none of it matters. So right now, I'm gonna say I pray for anyone, and I'm not even religious, but I got my grandma St. Christopher right here, and I'm gonna say I pray. And my grandmother, what a mother, or what a woman that raised me. My grandmother raised me. My grandmother came over here as an immigrant, was dropped off by her parents, given up, abandoned, brought into a Catholic school where she was abused. She was forced to urinate on herself and sleep on concrete floors with urinated sheets. And she came through that and through prejudices and oppression to raise me in this country of opportunity, who I now have the ability to have two beautiful brown children. I pray that those that live with such hatred in their heart do not spend their last breath wishing that they could have realized that the only people they were hurting were themselves. And with that being said, that's why I love comic books, because guess what? Comic books bridge that gap and speak to each and every one of us. And I don't gotta feel that hatred and that fear when I get lost in the hobby that I love.
Yep. Chris, there's a link that, did you want me to share it in the comments here?
Sure, yeah, if you wanted to, yeah.
And then I'm going to put that in the description afterwards. So if you guys want to come back, circle back. This is Chris. Tell us what this is before we leave.
Yeah. So one more time, this the link that we just shared is the link to the race changing in modern cinema video that I have. It's, like I said, it's 8-minute long. I did it last year when we had the announcement of the live action Ariel. You know, the Little Mermaid being cast is a I don't know if she's fully black. I know she's at least biracial. But it's, you know, this has been a prevalent theme. You know, we got backlash when MJ was cast as Mary Jane. So I talk about that. And even though I don't talk about the things that were just announced this week, it's still very relevant. So it's 8 minutes long. Go check that out. And like I said, leave some comments, whether you agree or disagree. I'm always open to the conversation. So leave some comments and let me know what you guys think, and we can continue that conversation there for sure.
All right. So we're going to end the show for tonight. We will be back next week. We appreciate all you guys who watch with us each and every week. Really, really value this time we spend with you. We really value being able to talk about the hobby that we all love. We really value the contributors like Tom Tormey, Thoro, and those guests. I'm very appreciative. This is something I look forward to each and every week. So that's what I have to say. Chris, any parting words before we end the show?
Yeah, be well, be kind to each other. You know, that's the theme. I don't care at the end of the day. If like I said, if we look different, pray different, vote different, shit different, I don't give a damn. You be kind to each other, because at the end of the day, that's all that matters. There ain't no room for anything else. We are all grown, and if we're not grown, I see kids acting more grown than some adults. So much respect to everyone. Be well, be safe, and until next week.
All right, we'll see y'all next week. Peace out.